So we move to the next speaker, is Eleftherio Gariferis, and we talk about tract analysis and connectomics. He's from Sherbrooke University, Canada.
Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Also, I have to say here that apart from working in Sherbrooke, I'm also working in DIPI, which is an international project for diffusion MRI analysis. I need the pointer, I think. Yeah. Okay, so here you are. You can see the T-shirt here. Here, so you can see the connection. Okay, now let's get into this. This is a wrong, I think, pointer. I'm getting the right one. Putting the wrong one here. Good. So I have nothing to declare. So here's the table of contents. The talk is tract analysis and connectomics, but I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to start with connectomics and then go into tract analysis. We have to understand that connectomics is kind of a top-down approach. You're trying to get measures from many areas simultaneously and then identify and learn about the brain. And tract analysis is a bottom-up approach. You go first to localize areas, and then you build up to learn about the brain. So keep that in mind for the next. So let's start with connectomics. I'm going to concentrate to structural connectomics. And this is the famous picture from Hagman's paper. So basically you have here two pathways. The one pathway is the T1 and the other is the diffusion data. And what you do in connectomics, you start segmenting the T1 and then you create labels and you use some labels that maybe are anatomically related, but often you have to kind of repartition more of those labels and go to a higher resolution of those labels, and you can use cortical surfaces, you can use ROIs from the white matter, gray matter interface. And then on the other side, you do some kind of reconstruction. Here Hagman used DSI, but it could be anything. And then you create tracking, and then you combine the tracking with the labels, and you try to count which tracks connect which ROIs here. And then you take that, and you process it, and then at the end you have a network here that explains or visualizes in a way how many of the tracks connect which of the ROIs. So by counting the tracks that connect ROIs, you can create these connectivity matrices, and you can do graph theory on those connectivity matrices and then see what are the strong connections, and then you can have weights between the nodes of those connections and start maybe identifying some differences across subjects. But it's not so trivial, this problem, because to actually do an accurate connectivity analysis, and other speakers also mentioned that, you need a really good alignment with a T1, and that actually is much more difficult that you can expect. So anyway, let's say you have a good alignment with the T1, and then you get your connectivity matrix, and then we say, okay, let's see which are the strong connections from that connectivity matrix. You will get some of the known bundles highlighted, but you will see that a lot of those bundles are much smaller than what we see when we manually segment those bundles. So there is this problem that the cortical regions, the way you parcellate the cortex, may split and merge real bundles and I will show you that it is also very difficult to have the different tract combinations. You could have multiple bundles going through specific endpoints, specific end ROIs. So you need the alignment with the T1 to be excellent, voxel perfect always, or in most cases. And also you have to remember that if you go and compare those matrices across subjects, the cortical regions are different. So yeah, so it's not a trivial problem. But I have to say here that graph theory is extremely powerful. I'm a computer scientist, I have to say this. So, and indeed there is information from Connectomics, there is some information, and, but it needs good input. So for example, studying those connectivity matrices, we can say how random is a network and how, in a very nice, sound mathematic way, we can know exactly if it is a small world or a random network or a regular network. And we know from many studies, we've seen from many studies that usually in the brain we find this small world architecture, which all means that you have more neighborhood corrections than long connections. And that has some properties. It shows some efficiency in the brain. Also, the graph theory gives us all these nice properties where you can have nodes and hubs, and you have the hubs connecting different modules, and then you have the edges, you can put weights. So rather than tracking counts that a lot of people are using, and that's not so reliable, you can put here FA measures, you can put many different things, and I'm going to speak a bit later about that. So graph theory is very powerful, and have been used for many things to explain different networks, but it needs good input. So make sure the input you give before you do the connectivity analysis is really good. So all the preprocessing steps are validated and at high level. So to get more into this, let's to these problems of connectivity analysis, let's use this this phantom here, the fiber cap phantom, and this is like a hardware phantom. It has a very simple configuration. You can see on the left, basically, and on the right. So here is the ground truth, how they put the bundles, the hardware bundles inside. And you can see that there is a green one, there is the blue one, the red one, there's yellow ones here. They're very specific bundles that are in here. So if you do an amazing job with tracking, you will have this, you have valid connections and valid paths. That means that all the ROIs connecting here, and you can see also the ROIs highlighted here, are exactly as in the phantom, right? So those are the good guys. So if you get those bundles, you're happy. But the problem is you have also these bad guys. For example, you have valid connections in a way that they do connect correct endpoints, but they go through the wrong path. So we see that often in tracking, like here. And Tim also saw some other examples of not good connections. And here's another problem. So let me say first that this here can really damage your connectivity analysis, because you want only the bundle that goes from here to here. You don't want this part, but you're measuring it when you're counting the number of streamlines. So have this in mind. And here is another case where here you have an invalid connection. So in that case, you should, if you start from here, you should go there, but you're actually going all the way here. So that's not, it's not a correct, it's not a real bundle. And that can also affect your connectivity analysis. And then here we have the ugly guys. So we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the ugly are not so bad because they don't go all the way, so they don't connect endpoints, but they stop prematurely. For some applications, it's good to keep those. For other applications, it's better to remove them. so this was an example of very simple issues. You see, just in a simple phantom, when you do tracking, the best tracking, you will get those wrong connections. And here is another alert about counting tracks and counting voxels. This is a very nice image from Marco Catani, where you can see on the top you have 3 tracks and 24 voxels. And then let's imagine there is a lesion. And here you see now you have 6 tracks and 18 voxels. So you have more tracks now on the lesion. What is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I mean, how should you interpret that? And then in this case, it just happened one of the 3 streamlines to be a bit erroneous and cover a longer area. And then you see here there is no lesion, but the number of voxels has increased a lot. So you still have 3. So have this in mind. So just counting tracks or counting voxels is not reliable by itself. It needs more closer inspection. Okay, so recently, very recently, like 1 week ago, there was this ISMRM challenge, a tractography challenge. In this challenge, we created, well, not myself, but it was my lab was, the lab I'm working in was involved in this. So we got the HCP dataset, and we created global tracking, and then we asked some neuroanatomists to create manually segmented bundles. So we have 26 bundles, and then we recreated the signal from those bundles. Okay, and we could, using the FiberFox, all the details are here in Tractometer, we could recreate both the T1 and the diffusion dataset. So what we learned from this challenge, and in that challenge you basically had, now that you have the simulated phantom, you have to do tracking, do all the analysis, correct for motion, correct for eddy current. There were a lot of artifacts, and you should give us back this. So you should give us the bundles correctly. The bundles that generated the signal, as a participant, you had to give us back those correctly. And then we would validate those. And initially, we thought that if we're using the endpoints that the neuroanatomists were using to do the segmentation, the manual segmentation, that would be enough. And then we can measure the number of valid connections and invalid connections and see if your result is close to those bundles. But what we saw is that even a bit of motion can push your connectivity results massively, and that was not really, it was really not expected. We knew that there is a problem with this, but we were not expecting it to be such a big problem. And so even with a phantom, counting streamlines is very error prone, and just checking if streamlines go through ROIs is very error prone. So the solution for this was to actually not use any image-based ROIs, but use streamlines directly. So we compare directly the streamlines of the model with the streamlines generated from the participants. And that solved the problem, and that gives hope to new connectivity measures using streamlines directly. So, so now you must be a bit lost how we do that. So I'm getting to the next part of the talk, which is the tract analysis. Okay? But keep from the previous one that there are new ways coming to measure connectivity without using image information. Okay? So let's get into tract analysis. So what is tract analysis? Okay, so tract analysis, well, first what is tract is a brain, a superhighway of the brain, which is known from anatomy. And then we can have a bundle that is an approximation of that tract using a set of streamlines, like the one here, this one. So, and then on that, we can project different metrics on the points of the streamlines of that bundle and then study those. So that is what is tract analysis. So it's all about bundle maps. So that I think is a better name. So in this talk, I will focus more on the streamlines rather than on the maps. So I'm not going to get into which maps are good to do tract analysis. I mean, you can use whatever you want. You can use FA, you can use NUFO, you can use AFD, you can use whatever you want. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to speak more about the power of the streamlines in the bundles themselves. So the idea with these bundle maps is that if there are some problems here, you will start seeing some defects, and maybe you can start discussing about bundle integrity, and maybe it will be useful for pathology. But now it's really nice because you're not working on the whole brain, but you really focus on a specific bundle. So you're very localized. And also, in tract analysis, the shape is also important. For example, you don't need only to look at matrix at metrics projected on the bundle, but also the bundle itself has a shape. And we know for some diseases, like in autistic children, there is this reference I have here from Lewis. You can really see in autistic children that some of the language pathways, even the shape is really different than in controls. Okay, so what is a streamline? This is because most people are used with images, they don't really get that part. So I want to make sure what I'm going to focus on what is a streamline. Explain here what is a streamline. So there are 3D curves, and they have floating point coordinates. Okay, so that's very different than images that have integer coordinates. So you need to interpolate between the two to go from the image space to the streamline space. So, and there are some common file formats here, and I'm talking about file formats here because most people have problems when they start working with streamlines because of file format issues and because of coordinate systems. They don't understand the coordinate systems. So here, so here I have a reference for you. There is this project called NIBabble, and it has a nice tutorial on coordinate systems. So please, if you're going to do tract analysis, get into this and try to understand what are these coordinate systems. It's not so complicated. I don't have the time to get into it, but do so, because often you may have like a small shift of 0.5 voxel, and that destroys your connectivity analysis just because of this small shift. And you don't even see it. It's difficult to see, and it's difficult to know. So keep that link in mind. So why streamlines are useful? They integrate information along many voxels. They contain connectivity information by default. Now this is a different connectivity. It's sequential connectivity. So you know that this point is connected to that, to that, to that, goes all the way. So in a way, the streamline itself is a graph by itself. And they have information about shape and orientation. And together with other streamlines, they make, let's say, good models of bundles. It's better than using just the points or just the surface around a bundle. So you're kind of closer to what a pack of nerves of tracts looks like. And one problem that comes out from tracking is that often the points saved in a streamline are in a reverse order. So you could have in a bundle 2 streamlines, and one started from this going there, and the other from here going there. So this is called the flipping problem of streamlines. And it's good to have it in mind that, for example, if you want to calculate now the centroid between these two, you have to flip one of the two to change the order, because otherwise the centroid will not be correct. And to compare streamlines is not so easy in images, and maybe that's what has delayed so far processing streamlines in an efficient way, because you don't have anymore the region where you can move one voxel up, one down. So now you really need to use distances between streamlines, and you have many points. Because there are many points, you're in sub-millimeter resolution usually, and that increases the computational complexity. So here's two families of streamline distances that have different properties. The first one is Hausdorff distances, and basically the idea is if you have two streamlines, you need to find the closest one, the closest point from one streamline to the other. And in that way, you don't need to have a specific number of points per streamline. You can have as many points as you want. And the problem with this one is computationally expensive, but it's nice when you want to put together small streamlines together with big streamlines. So when I show you those ugly connections before, if you wanted those to be merged together with the rest of the bundle, you could use that distance to put them together. So this is the Hausdorff distances, and then the more efficient way to calculate distances is to create vector-like distances, and in that way, basically what you do, you say, okay, keep only 4 points on a streamline, for example, and then take the direct distances. So you get the Euclidean distance from here to there, from here to here, there, from here to there, and you sum those, and you do the same. And you average those, and you do the same flipping the two, and then you keep the minimum of the two, for example. So if you do that, then what has the streamline become? Now the streamline is just a generalization of a vector. You just, rather than having one vector, you have like an array of vectors of specific size. So when you have that representation, it's much easier to process those streamlines, and it's very efficient. So this is what I use myself to do clustering of streamlines, and basically from the two, I take the minimum of the direct distance and the flipped version of that, and its fastest compute is a symmetric distance, is metric distance, which means that has very good mathematical properties to do then anything you want, like registration or comparison or many other things. And you have values that are from 0 to infinity in millimeters, which mean so that if you have two streamlines, one on top of each other, as you go like this will be two parallel streamlines. It will be like exactly in millimeters, and then you can kind of have a feeling of that distance. So you get used to using them. It's easy to get used to play with them. And if you have two streamlines being closed like that, then you have a lower MDF, lower minimum direct flip distance. That's the name of that distance. And if the shape of one starts changing, then the distance becomes higher. So it's easy to set thresholds here to separate that one as being two things, the same thing, and these two being two different things. Okay? And also, I have a suggestion on the interpolation. So, as I said before, you have to interpolate those streamlines. So here it is how this works. Basically, this is the initial streamline. And then you say, let's say I want 4 points. You go across the length of the streamline with small steps. And then you put a point there and then just connect. So now if you use only 4 points for that, it's not a good representation. But if you use from 12 to 20 points, it's a good enough representation from what was the initial streamline. And in that way, it's also kind of a type of compression, because now you use much less point than before. So quick bundles is an algorithm I invented, is using that distance, and basically just using one single distance threshold, you can take bundles like this one here and cluster them, and then see the hidden structures that appear in this bundle. For example, you may see now, if you just use this color map here, you may think that like all streamlines start from here and they end at the endpoints here. But that's not what is happening. In these datasets, there are streamlines that start much higher up, and they're broken, and they just go like here. So if you wanted to really understand what is inside the bundles, a clustering method like this can help you simplify them and see, and then rather than having 1 million streamlines, now you have much less. You could have 1,000, for example, or 500, and in that way, really see the hidden structures that are commonly in the datasets. But have in mind that this is unsupervised learning here, so I just put a distance threshold and I just did a very fast clustering. I haven't put any information about what are the bundles I'm looking for or anything like that. So if you want to get anatomically relevant bundles, that's a different problem. It's supervised learning, and you need to have a model of the bundle that you're looking at. So, yeah. So remember that distinction, because a lot of people maybe promoted unsupervised clustering as a way to get automatically anatomically relevant bundles, but that's not possible. You need to have a model of what is a bundle you're looking at. So as the previous speakers explained, most people to extract bundles are doing manual segmentation. And of course, the problem with manual segmentation, especially if you have many subjects, it can take months from months to years to segment them. So we have some collaboration with a team in France, and they have 400 subjects, and you can just see them like every year we ask, did you finish the segmentation? They say, oh, we're still working on it. Especially in disease population, it becomes really difficult to do those manual segmentations. So this is a method I presented very recently in ISMRM, where we actually now have a method that if you go and segment one model bundle in one subject, the algorithm will get it automatically from other subjects, and the result will be as good. And we did that with many subjects, and we saw that the method is very accurate. And you can go to very diseased brains, like this brain here, where you have a huge tumor, and the CST is going through that right side here. And then when you do tracking, the tracking becomes really difficult. All the preprocessing is very difficult. But let's say you have a real expert, and the real expert will pick up this bundle. It might take a few minutes for a few hours to get that bundle out. But now you can actually just put in this algorithm a model bundle from a healthy subject, and you pick it up automatically. And the result is as good, and also it's often better because you get more density. So this is relevant new work. So I'm just showing here to show what is the actual potential of using streamlines directly with model information, and how much we can, in the very near future, make much faster all the issues with manual segmentation. And I recommend also see this work from Meyer and Prasad, which are also very interesting ideas on those problems. So after you have these bundles, which you can get them manually or automatically now, you can register them together if you want. So you have one bundle from one subject, one bundle from another subject. And although those bundles have incomplete information, so a lot of streamlines are broken, don't go all the way, you can actually use this new method called streamline-based linear registration that puts them together, and then in that way you can go and compare the shape of different bundles. So here is, for example, before and after registration. So now we haven't gone to the image space at all. This is all in streamline space. So just using the streamlines, this algorithm is capable of putting the bundles together. And it's very powerful method, and you can see that in this example here, where here we have a fixed bundle that we're going to register this green bundle, and it's most of the bundle is different. Only 20% of that bundle is similar to that bundle, but still the algorithm has a cost function that is very nice, and it has a global optimum, and in that way we can really put those together very efficiently. So the streamline-based linear registration method is very robust to incomplete data, and incomplete data are everywhere in tractography. So using this algorithm, you can put some bundles together and then look at the overlapping regions, and now you can study how similar are your metrics on those overlapping regions rather than looking the entire regions at once. You can also create bundle-specific atlases. So here is the optic radiation, and we take the optic radiation from many different subjects, and we just register here in one subject, and then we count the number of streamlines going through those subjects. And in that way, we can create this atlas of the optic radiation. You can imagine we just use linear registration of the streamlines, but we get really sharp optic radiation atlases that you can see here, the Mayer's loop and all that. So have in mind now that apart from the image-based templates you can create, you can also have bundle-based templates. Also, using streamlines, you can do whole brain linear registration, and this is more robust than just using, when you have like very diseased brains with huge tumors, is more robust than just using image-based registration. So if you have very diseased subjects that even FLIRT is failing, you may have some hope with this method now. So let's get into tractometry. So tractometry is actually, it's about the bundle maps. So the idea with tractometry, now we want to do group comparison, so we want to compare natively, in native space, different bundles. And here, basically what we do, we project a metric to every point in the streamline, and then usually we just sum all the values in the entire bundle, or better, we sum along a specific streamline, and we use that and we create those maps. So basically, taxometry averages values of metrics in the specific bundles that we're looking at. Then there is this very nice paper from Yitman, where here he does a very nice trick. He registers all the subjects with FA in MNI space, and then he puts some planes in that space. And then he can cut what he doesn't want in the common space, keep the planes, project back to native space, and then take a centroid for the bundle that he's interested at, and then project all the values in this centroid. So he's projecting all the values from the bundle here in that centroid, and then study the variance and the mean for many different bundles. And using that technique, which is really nice because you basically you process everything in native space. You didn't go to the common space apart from setting the planes, so that you know which bundles you're working with. So in this way now, and having this in-between plots, he can go here and then compare 1 year old, older children and younger children, and be able to discriminate on specific bundles. And another very interesting idea on comparing those tract profiles, those bundle maps is again, you take all the values, you project them here for a specific metric, so you have now one function for one subject, and then you put all your population together, and then it looks a mess. Basically, it's very difficult to discriminate between two. But what you can do, because these projections look like time series, you can use a lot of tools that have been used in time series or in other fields, and compare this directly. For example, what you can do, you can use functional data analysis and get the main components, so fit B-splines in those curves, get the main components of those B-splines, do a PCA on those, so just concentrate now on a very small space, and using that, you can do real discriminant analysis and have these very nice discriminating curves that will tell you in which places, in which areas of the bundles there are differences in your population. Another thing you can do, after creating a centroid for a bundle, then you can get some planes perpendicular to that bundle and then study the metrics on those cross-sections. So you can think of it like take all the cross-sections, now they're 2D, and start looking at those and try to infer what are the differences across populations on those cross-sections. But here you have to be careful. You may want to make sure that the cross-section in one subject corresponds to the cross-section to another subject. And finally, you can use the streamlens directly to compare against group comparisons. So you can use something called bundle adjacency. And bundle adjacency will tell you, like, if you have this tractography, you cluster all that tractography, and you get some centroids here. You do that for every subject. Then bundle adjacency will tell you that, okay, these centroids are different than those centroids here, and you have a nice metric that goes from 0 to 1. So if you are 1, your centroids are very similar. If you are 0, they're very different. And in that way, you can immediately compare clusters directly across subjects. But for this method, you have to be in a common space to be really accurate. So these are some ideas on how to do tractometry tract analysis. The conclusion is that make the mental leap from images to streamlines. The grid is not everything. The world of streamlines is a world of opportunity. Automatic segmentation of streamlines is reducing manual segmentation. Registration of bundles is robust to incomplete data. Clustering simplification can show you hidden structures and reduce computational complexity. Study of bundles using centroids, distances, clusters, and cross-sections. Do not stick on tensor metrics, move to AFD, QA, and other neurometrics. Be critical about how you measure connectivity. Make sure you do your pre-processing right to do any good connectomics. Think of more robust ways to measure connectivity and use graph theory. Combine connectivity and connectomics with tract analysis. And I didn't explain you how that can work, but I will let you this as let's say, as an exercise, as a mental exercise. So basically, if you have the bundles already, the connectomics become much simpler because you don't need to worry about the invalid connections anymore. And all this new technology and algorithms are available in DIPI. And I'm an exhibitor this year here, so you can come and ask me more questions. We have an exhibition booth at the entrance of the conference, and find me for more information. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eleftherios. I think we have a question for one quick question, and then we can have 5 minutes for coffee break. Any question about track analysis or any question about connectomics? I'm sure that someone wants to ask something about connectomics. No? No. Okay, then.
Okay,
then.
thank you.